Mom, are you telling me that I'm an illicit love child? You broke up a marriage? Calm down, Rose. You really must stop with the overreactions. Okay, I do not think I'm overreacting, Rose replied. This is major stuff that I definitely should have known about. It's not what you're thinking. Just calm down and I'll explain. You see, amongst the Okar, it is normal for your wife to be predetermined. From the time you are a young age, families within the Okar, who are on friendly terms with other families, often betroth their children, so that once they come of age, their mate has already been decided, which helps maintain strong relationships with other families, and promotes strong bloodlines within the Okar. Mala was your father's prearranged marriage. She was due to marry your father. However, your father wasn't one to stay in one place. As I said, he felt trapped where he lived, wanted to see the rest of the world with his own eyes, not be restricted or tied down in that way. He was a free spirit of sorts, which once again, I remind you, is exceptionally unusual, especially for the Okar. So, when he went missing, his arranged wife, Mala, could have easily found another mate. Not all relationships and marriages are arranged. It's simply a common thing that is done. Mala was actually one of the most prominent women of his village, and many men desired her. She was one of the strongest female hunters that they had, as well as being quite attractive. However, for whatever the reason, be it honor to her family, or whether she actually had some form of feeling for your father, she refused to simply choose another groom. Instead, she set out on a journey of her own, going from one place to the next, trying to find your father, and up until that point, was failing. Your father tended not to stick around in places. He would journey somewhere and stay there for a short time, see the sights, maybe interact with the people if he could. And then, just as quickly as he came, he would leave. But your father ended up spending weeks with me, far longer than he had stayed in any other place. I suppose love can do that. He had no desire to go so long as I was there. So, as he was staying in one place, eventually, Mala caught up, tracking him to our village, and caught me and your father. Well, I don't think I need to explain the details, but let's just say that when she came upon us, she was not pleased. She was infuriated, enraged that your father had chosen a sky ray, not just over an Okar, but over her. She spoke as if our relationship was, of course, what she claimed an affront to the balance, not meant to be. But any real woman could see the truth in her eyes. What she was really upset about was that your father had found another woman at all. She was enraged and eventually left after a very lengthy argument and a confrontation with your father. Your father bettered her in this conflict, but did not kill her. When she left, she swore that that would not be the end of things. After that, some time passed, with me and your father being able to continue our relationship without intervention. But then, the conflict between the Sky Ray and the Okar began. It was a war, and in this time of war and conflict between our people, that is when Mala decided to reveal our relationship. In the time of our greatest tensions, the elders of our respective villages each saw this as an affront, a betrayal of our individual peoples, and so they decided to come after us. I actually allowed my people to take me into custody. I did not refute our relationship, nor did I fight my people. I had no wish to bring harm to them. Your father suggested fighting, that he would do so if I refused, but I told him that I would never forgive him if my people were hurt, though he did not agree with my decision to allow them to take me, saying that we could go together, find somewhere else. I told him that my place was with my people, and for the time being, as your father did not seem to be siding with his own people, the people of the Sky Ray decided not to attack him, saying that he would be allowed to stay for the time being until a decision was reached about me. It was only after that they discovered that I was with child, that I was pregnant with you, Rose. My pregnancy actually only made things worse. The leader of the Okar demanded that I be destroyed as an affront to the balance, but the leader of the Sky Ray refused them, saying that killing our own or sacrificing them is not something that we do. But this only escalated the conflict between our people. Eventually, in hopes of gaining some form of ceasefire, a punishment was decided for me. A punishment that in all respects was simply a way for them, the leaders of the Sky Ray, to give the Okar what they want without having to do the dirty work themselves. The decision was reached to banish me from my village. I would be left to my own devices, given just enough food to survive for a short time, and expected to leave our territory. This would allow the Okar to come for me of their own accord. As soon as they banished me from the village, your father was right there waiting. At this point, he had been briefed on all of the newer changes, the conflict between the people, and that I was being banished. Unfortunately, he never found out about you, Rose. I never got the chance to tell him. There was a time when I feared that you might die, that during the attacks against us, perhaps, that were most definitely going to come, that I would lose you. And if that were the case, I did not want your father to blame himself. The protection of one's family is exceptionally important to the Okar. Any Okar at all, would give their life 100-fold before allowing their child to perish. The protection of one's own bloodline is of paramount importance. The Okar believe that blood is immortal, that so long as your bloodline persists, that you yourself are beyond death, that your essence, memory, your very existence is forever carried on in that bloodline. Ensuring that one's children grow to fruition is the most important thing to them. If your father learned that you died, that I suffered an injury that caused me to miscarry you, it might destroy him. I loved your father very much, and so to prevent him from finding himself responsible, too weak to protect me, I made the choice not to tell him. It would only distract him, change his decision-making practices, make mistakes and self-sacrifice more likely. But all my efforts was for naught. In the end, even not knowing that I was carrying his child, He sacrificed himself for me anyways. At a point when 4 Okar had caught up with us, your father fought them off, telling me to run. He is in fact the one who told me of Jax, the king of Atlantis, a stranger from a distant world who very soon was planning on leaving. It didn't matter where in the world I went. The Okar had set a hunt for me, and regardless of what territory I passed through, where I decided to stay, they would undoubtedly find me, and I was not strong enough to fight them, which left me but with one option. I ran. Still pregnant with you, I found the man that your father spoke of, the stranger from a distant world that he had come across in his travels, who was said to be unstoppable. There, I begged him to save my life and the life of my unborn child, to take us with him to a different world where the Okar would no longer pursue us. And that is it. Our story brought to an end. But in exchange for that end, I found a new beginning here on Earth. I gave birth to you, a beautiful daughter, and our story began, Rose's mother said, finishing the story with a somewhat saddened expression on her face.